Welcome everybody to this Green City Conference. It's a pleasure to be in Beringen, and I would like to start by thanking the community of Beringen for hosting this Green Cities Symposium, in which we will also hand over later this evening the winner of the 2021 Green Cities Award. My name is Leon Smet. I'm from the Netherlands, closely involved in the Green Cities, and I will be your moderator tonight, over a very nice program. We are having quite a few people live here. We also have an audience online in different European countries, so I would like to welcome everybody online and offline. So thank you for being here. Today we're going to announce the Green Cities Award, which will be announced by a European Parliament member, and we will have a symposium which will clarify a bit more about the importance of green in urban development. The European Nursery Stock Association is the proud host and initiator of the Green Cities program, and the Green Cities program has a target which is to put in top of mind of communities around Europe the importance of green. We all know about climate change, we all know about plants and trees, how beautiful they are, but what we do not know yet very much is that these plants and trees also have invisible functions. And it's very nice via a campaign as the Green Cities to announce European-wide the importance of green when it comes to climate, when it comes to biodiversity, when it comes to social and well-being of people. So green is really necessary in the top of minds of cities, and that is actually the goal of the Green Cities campaign. I would very much like to thank again Beringen as the first winner of the Green Cities Award last year. And they have won the Green Cities Award for several reasons. The mayor of Beringen will explain a little bit more later tonight about their vision and how they embraced the philosophy. But it is, in fact, a project that has targeted on not only citizens, but also tourism. And they have transformed an industrial coal area into a very nice green urban hub. And that is something that Beringen can be proud of, I think, and which is why we are here, to be able to present the symposium. We have a program which will be announced via the screen. We have different lecturers from different countries. We have a scientific lecture from Ireland. We have a more architectural lecture from Denmark. And we have various European members of the Parliament that will have a role in the symposium tonight. I will try to connect all the different dots, and I would like to start with giving the word and the floor to the President of the European Nursery Stock Association, Mr. Henk Rijmakers from the Netherlands.
Thank you very much, Leon. For me also a warm welcome for everyone physically and virtual present at this evening, and also a compliment to the city of Beringen for their hospitality and the fact that they are the first winners of this award. INA has, and I'm the representative as president, has 22 member organizations, 22 countries, of which 16 are within the European Union and 6 are out of outside the European Union. And from those 16 countries, 13 are participating in this campaign. The campaign European Green Cities for Europe. And I'm very proud of that because this is one of the first campaigns that we all work together within the INA, and INA can be the host of it. When did this philosophy of the Green City started? It started almost 20 years ago. And we saw a lot of budget cuts in green and the investment in green and the maintenance of green. And we as a sector, nursery sector, we were looking for ways to change the view on green. And we started with the philosophy of green, not green as a cost, but green to solve solutions in big cities, small cities. We started with scientific research, and we found out that there was a big impact if you invest in green on biodiversity. We found out that with the climate change, heat stress became a bigger and bigger problem. Floods became a bigger and bigger problem. And also air pollution. I once was in China, and if you are in Beijing or Shanghai, you can hardly breathe because of the air pollution. But in a lot of European cities, it's the same. The air pollution, electric cars will help, but the climate change is coming more and more heavy in our cities. So at one hand, we had the climate change and the infrastructure and what we could do with the scientific research and look for solutions. At the other hand, we saw that if we invest in green, it helps social cohesion. It helps people to recreate and sport more. And what we found out was that people in a hospital recover faster when they look into green instead of a parking place of concrete. So the whole package made more and more clear for us that the investment in green was not so much a cost, but an investment in the future, in healthier people, in well-being of people, but also in the value of a real estate, for instance. We found out that in a green environment, the real estate is more than 10 to 15% higher than when there is no green in the area. So climate change was already an issue, but what we found out was that the COVID pandemic was really a game changer. You saw people who had to stay at home, couldn't go out. They wanted to go into parks. They wanted to go out into the green spaces, the small spots in the cities, the small parks in the cities, the forests around the cities. They were all overcrowded, and you saw it all over Europe. So what you see now is that people, especially the young people, and we thought that we missed the young people as a category that buys plant and are interested in green, that they are the ones now who want to invest in green. It's the young generation that says we have to do something about climate change. We have to do something to green our environment. And to do so, the local government is very important in this. And that's why I'm so happy that we are here in this governmental place, because the local government, the city hall, is an important place to decide what to do with green and how to invest in green. And you can tell a story as much as you want, and but it's the real decisions if you want to invest in green, and if you are able to find spots not only for parking place, not only for building, but to make it greener. If you look at the future, we see that we have a Green Deal in Europe. And the Green Deal says we have to plant 280 million trees every year in the whole of Europe. But my question is, where are you going to plant them? Who is going to buy them? Who is going to pay them? Who is going to grow them? And what kind of plants are you going to plant? Because it's easy to say we are going to plant 280 million trees. But what kind of trees and shrubs are you going to plant? And if you can link the Green Deal and the Green City, and you can link them together, maybe we can invest seriously in bigger parks, forests, reforestation around the cities, green spots in the cities, because it lowers the temperature, sometimes with 4 or 5 degrees within the city. Fresh air is coming into the city from the areas around. So we have to look at the whole picture. The next step is also not only the public space, and it's not only the government who has to do something. 50% of all the areas that we can green is private places. So if we start a campaign to make the public more aware that they can do something themselves, that's very important as well. And maybe that's the next step, that not only the public space, but also the private space is very important, and that message has to be spread by the Green City. We started a cooperation with So Green. And So Green is an organization that brings architects, builders, constructors, landscapers, gardeners, local authorities, all together. And we find, and we are looking for innovative ways to make the areas greener. And to make those areas greener, you have horizontal, you have roof green, you have vertical green. You have to look different to plants. You need new species. You have to adapt to the climate change. So the craftsmanship of growers, the people I represent within INA, is very important. And we have a big task working together with everyone to make one big picture and make a plan for the long term. Long-term planning to keep the green promise and to make it work. So every plant starts as a cutting of a seed. So you need time to act on a greener world. I thank you very much.
Half of the world's population lives in cities. By 2050, this number will grow from 50 to 70%. And with the effects of climate change around the corner, hotter temperatures, widespread drought, mass migration, loss of biodiversity and excessive rainfall, it's safe to say our cities could use some upgrades. So, what do we need? We need greener cities to mitigate and adapt to the changing climate, to create healthier work environments, encourage biodiversity, and to increase social cohesion. We need the Artilleryski Park in Bulgaria, where a fallow part of the city was turned into a beautiful park, increasing social well-being and cooling down the city. Meanwhile, in France, this old quarry was transformed into a tropical oasis, Le Jardin Extraordinaire. In this garden,
et l'eau et l'ombre des arbres font baisser de 3-4 degrés la température par rapport à 10 mètres d'ici si vous êtes sur le trottoir.
We need to renovate old parks, like they did to this park in Poland, an existing park redesigned to house hundreds of new species of plants and trees from all over Europe. We need to improve our standard of city planning, like this brand new city district in Sweden that sets the example for future sustainable urban development. We need the Kilsberg Park in Germany, a park in the city centre of Stuttgart. This park manages heavy rainfall and provides a social space for future residents to connect. We need Park Fix in Athens, Greece, where a former abandoned space is now a modern, sustainable park, giving locals a place to connect and enjoy nature. We need to preserve important plant species to maintain biodiversity, like they do in the Botanic Gardens in Dublin, Ireland. We need to maximise our green areas and create green roofs like this one in the city centre of Utrecht, the Netherlands. This edible garden for people and animals.
Het is een geweldige toevoeging voor de medewerkers van dit bedrijf. Maar het is vooral ook een tuin die bijdraagt aan de biodiversiteit van deze plek.
We need to explore new forms of agriculture. This 85-acre land in Belgium is dedicated for urban horticulture, combined with an organic picking garden and water meadow landscape. Surrounding yourself with nature can even speed up and improve health recovery. We need to improve our hospitals and health centres with green surroundings, like this private home for autistic people in Hungary. A sensory garden combined with a rain infiltration system to keep the area safe from excessive rain. We need Denmark's Sandkald Square, a transformation of grey infrastructure into new nature spaces, with natural flooding protection during severe rainfall. We need more parks where we can exercise and breathe fresh air, like this park in Portugal. Lastly, we need Biblioteca degli Alberi, the library of trees right in the centre of Milano, Italy. A brand new cultural campus and botanical garden for everyone to enjoy.
Dalle persone anziane che vengono per godere un po' di pace e tranquillità, ai genitori che portano i propri figli per mostrare loro le specie di piante ed alberi che qui sono preservati.
In Europe, we have many green projects with trees and plants from European nurseries. Green Cities offers solutions for all European cities to make places where we live and work future-proof. Find out what you can do at thegreencities.eu.
Well, that was a fantastic movie, and I hope you enjoyed this movie. Thank you, Henk, for your speech. This movie has been a product which has been produced by all the 13 cooperative organizations from the different countries. So I think it's really something to show Europe and also the European Commission that we are working together on output. It's part of the program, so it's not just a video that we are making. We're doing PR, we are doing social media, we're organizing different meetings, online, offline. We're organizing a whole broad palette of different initiatives in order to make sure that in the top of minds of cities in Europe, green will become something that will be, well, a vast element. I'm also very proud now to be able to announce our next speaker, who will be speaking online, Mr. Norbert Linz, member of the European Parliament and chair of the Agricultural Committee. Mr. Linz, welcome. And we are ready to listen to your view on the green cities.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Smet, dear Mr. Reimaukers, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for inviting me today. It may seem a little bit strange that I, as the chair of the Committee for Agriculture and Rural Development, am speaking to you today on the occasion of the presentation of the European Green Cities Award. But this is actually only logical. For a long time, perhaps too long, cities and rural areas have been seen as opposites. But only if we succeed in bringing in more countryside into the city and more city into the countryside, we can meet the great challenges of our time. What do I mean by this? We must stop seeing our rural areas as remote areas. They must be able to keep up with our cities in terms of digitization, infrastructure, and innovation. In this way, we not only create prospects in rural area, but also fight poverty, rural exodus, and inequality in a very concrete way. On the other hand, we need more of the benefits of our rural areas in our city. Our cities must become greener, opener. With increasing urban sprawl, there is no longer the green lung that has grown up around the city. We need many green lungs in the city, not only for a better urban climate, but also as places of biodiversity and food production. In the middle of the current century, 70% of the world's population will be living in urban areas. But already today, many urban areas are suffering from the negative effects of climate change, as well as other negative consequences, such as undermined social cohesion. Moreover, 80% of the world's energy and resources are currently consumed in urban areas. More than 3/4 of global emissions are generated there. So it's only logical that we address the problems where they arise in the cities. Urban green spaces, from parks and gardens to green roofs and city farms, provide numerous benefits for people and are opportunities for businesses and a sanctuary for our nature as well. They reduce air and water pollution. They provide protection from floods, droughts, and heat waves. And they maintain the connection between people and nature. The recent curfews due to the COVID-19 pandemic have made us even more aware of the value of urban green spaces to our physical and physiological well-being. But you all here know best. More and more people want to move from the countryside to the city, and space is already very limited. In the competition for land, however, green spaces usually lose out as the need for additional housing grows continually. This trend should be reversed. In the biodiversity strategy that the European Commission presented last year, and on which the European Parliament commented extensively in its own initiative report, we committed ourselves on this. We agreed that the promotion of healthy ecosystems, green infrastructures, and nature-based solutions should be systemically integrated into urban planning. That means including the planning of public spaces and infrastructures and the design of buildings and their surroundings. In the biodiversity strategy, we have also decided to plant 3 billion additional trees by 2030, with full respect for ecological principles, and not only in the countryside, but especially in the cities. You, ladies and gentlemen, are already showing us today how the cities of tomorrow could look like. You have shown with a lot of ideas that there is actually no corner in the city that cannot be greened. I wish all participants in the competition every success. After all, you have already won. You have made your cities greener and contributed to the well-being of people, animals, and nature. But you have also contributed to making your cities fit for the upcoming challenges of the future. Together with new ideas and innovations in the city as well as in the countryside, we can master the great challenges of our time and can combat climate change and the loss of biodiversity. I thank you very much. I give back to Mr. Smith.
Thank you very much, Mr. Linz, for these wonderful words. I would like to, we as INA and Green City Committee would like to really much see you as an ambassador for the green thoughts that we would like to spread out more and more over Europe. So we will have a present for you. It's an ambassador's gift. It will be sent to you after this meeting, so you can give it a nice place in your office. Thank you for these ambitious words also, Mr. Linz. I think it's important to work on national level, work on local level, but also mainly work on European level, and that is why we are addressing our message to the European Parliament members. So thank you again for your words. We are here in Beringen, as I mentioned before, and I would like to announce the next speaker. And the next speaker is Mr. Thomas Linz. He is the mayor of Beringen, and he will explain a bit more about the project and the ambition of the community when it comes to greening the area. Mr. Linz, thank you.
Thank you. Dear attendees, on behalf of the city of Beringen, I would like to welcome you all today. I would like to quickly introduce myself. I'm Thomas Linz, mayor of Beringen. Beringen used to be a small town, but in 1977 we merged with Paal, Koersel and Beverlo. And since then, Beringen is home to 47,000 inhabitants. And being able to stand here today at this occasion is a perfect example of how far we've come. Just over a year ago, to our biggest surprise, we won the European Green City Award. Our green mine site blew, if I may say that, the judges away. Our mine strengthened us on numerous occasions. The mines opened international doors. It goes without doubt that they make our city even better. But as you can see, we've come a long way. Our mines aren't what they used to be. On October 28, 1989, our history books turned dark. Our mine history created growth and prosperity. In between 1922 and 1989, our mine workers collected more than 79 million tons of coal. And when our mines closed, Beringen faced socioeconomic challenges. And these challenges still have a big influence on our local policies. It's safe to say that we've upgraded to a whole new level. We've worked on creating a vision that connects history and future. The mine site is now given a modern, repurposed use as B-mine. Our mine is our city's history, and it determines our identity. Our multicultural society is connected to our mine history. Culture inspires, it moves and brings people together, just as the mine did and still does today. The mine site contains a variety of meeting places that strengthen social cohesion. The former Mine Directors Park is such an example that encourages interaction between people by transforming it into a public park. Beringen Main has even more to offer. The old and the new mine site will be connected to the Kolenspoor, a landscape park. This green axis extends from the coaling harbor to the mine site. Along the road you can find various cultural related elements such as the mine cathedral, the mosque, community centers and playgrounds. And culture can be enjoyed everywhere at Beringen. The casino, or cultural temple, is a place of experience situated along the green kiosk plain. Culture can also be found in the mine museum and the mine buildings, which have recently been brightened up with a flowery mixed border. Together with Beringen Center, Beverlo, Koersel and Paal, Beringen Main is one of the 5 commercial centers of Beringen. Since the closure of the coal mine, the reconversion of the area has created a vibrant economy. A lot of attention has been paid to the green framework, with positive effects on the general well-being. Our approach is via a public-private partnership between the Limburgse Reconversie Society and a private project developer under the name B-Mine. The area will be further redeveloped for tourism and recreation, combined with urban functions such as living, working and shopping. The recreational possibilities are many, with indoor activities such as indoor climbing, a swimming complex, or indoor diving among tropical fish. For outdoor sports and games, you can visit Adventure Mountain with its playground landscape, mountain bike trails, and various hiking and walking trails. Cyclists will find what they're looking for on the extensive cycling road network that includes the Kolenspoor. There are also a wide range of activities to offer at our tourist office. You can book overnight stays and be pampered with the culinary delights here. Nature conquers our mind side. The Copenhagen landscape is strongly dominated by two trails, residual coal slag heaps. The coal mounds evolved into green gems, in which the small slag heap was redesigned as a playground landscape, and the large slag heap encompasses an extensive natural value. You have a beautiful view over the landscape from the top of both trail peaks. The large trail offers you a 360 view of the surrounding landscape. And on a clear day, you can also see the other mine sites, such as Heuze-Zolder and Zwartberg in Genk. If you ever have time, please come and take a look. I promise that you won't be disappointed. It's still my go-to place if I want to enjoy what my beautiful city has to offer. In the meantime, several phases of the reconversion project have been carried out, creating a new dynamic that is also noticeable in terms of mobility. In order to reduce the increasing traffic pressure, safe bicycle and footpaths connections such as the coal track road will be used. The coal track is part of a larger network of coal tracks in the province of Limburg. A strategic project was launched at the initiative of the province and the mining communities in order to give new meaning to the coal tracks. At master plan level, 3 strategic lines were set out with the coal tracks as an innovative mobility network, a nature economic network, and as a meeting and experience space. The innovative character of the mine project lies mainly in the search for an appropriate and sustainable reconversion of the rich mining heritage. Heritage value, reconciliation between old and new, modern treats and needs, new uses of material are always taken into account. In addition to the green aspect, the project site is innovative in the sense of integrating existing green structures or offering nature opportunities again through Be Nature in an increasingly urbanized environment. Adapted management is sometimes enough to create a nice biodiversity story. But we're not finished yet. There are still challenges we're facing and opportunities worth fighting for. Like I've mentioned, our mind side needs to be cherished forever. It's what makes our city even greater. It reflects our history and makes us hopeful to our future. To whoever may win tonight, see this award as a token of appreciation and respect. This award has motivated us to keep going, to innovate and extend our green projects all over our city. With that in mind, I would like to thank everyone who is working on making our city greener, better, and even more impressive. Enjoy your evening, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vince. That was a very encouraging speech, and I think the tension is rising for the winner to be announced later tonight. Because I think it really brings something to a community when you look back at your heritage and you set forward into the greenification of an area. I think it's very ambitious, and I think it's really nice to set steps in the future to work to together with all your agencies and your residents. The next speaker that I would like to announce is from the University of Dublin. Mick Lennon is associate professor at this university, and we very much welcome him for showing us a bit more about how does it come when it comes to planning. Because when we speak about greenification of cities, it might sound so easy, but there is a big structure behind it. There is planning involved, and it's not just a puzzle to be made. So more from that side from Mr. Mick Lennon. Thank you, Mr. Lennon.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here. And in these times of pandemic, I think it's rather appropriate that I present something on green space planning for health and well-being. So that's what I'm going to talk about for the next quarter of an hour or so. As mentioned there, I'm an associate professor at University College Dublin in Ireland. I'm affiliated to the School of Architecture, Planning and Environmental Policy in that university. So green space planning for health and well-being. Why do we need to consider green space in planning for health and well-being? Well, we're very much aware of it in this time of pandemic, that green space is very important in facilitating physical activity. in that it provides spaces for play, recreation, walking, cycling, all within a safe environment. In the last number of decades, we've become ever more aware, as the scientific literature has built up, that green space enhances mental well-being by supplying urban refuges and restorative environments through increased contact with nature and the opportunities it provides for that, which has been mentioned by earlier speakers. Also, we've become acutely aware of the role that green space provides in enhancing opportunities for social interaction, for contact, and indeed community building activities. And of course, there is now a bank of knowledge, scientific papers, both in the natural sciences and social sciences, demonstrating how green spaces moderate the impact of air and noise pollution, as well as mitigating risks from flooding and the urban heat island effects. So conscious of this, a few years ago, the Irish Health Service Executive, working with the Irish Environment Protection Agency, tasked us as a planning school and me as a planning researcher to explore how we can enhance people's use of public green spaces for health and well-being. To do this, we felt that we first needed to reflect upon how planning actually considers green spaces in health and well-being. And one of the things that became quite apparent when we started to look at the literature, both the academic literature and the grey literature, is that planning approaches to green space are often focused on the quantity of green space, the proximity to residential areas, and the accessibility provided to residents for those green spaces. But the issue that we quickly became aware of from a few academic papers was that quantity, proximity, and accessibility did not necessarily equate to quality. In other words, the experience that people have of those spaces, simply because there is diversity of users of those spaces. Women, men, old, young, and those spaces are set within different contexts, different socioeconomic contexts, different environmental contexts, different degree of urban centrality. Another issue that emerged was that when we drill down into issues around the attributes that promote health and well-being and how they've been studied in the public health literature, they're often discrete in that they address a particular cohort and how they relate to a particular intervention. For example, a green playing pitch or a children's play area or a space for access to nature. But they don't look at things in the round that would, in other words, respond to the diversity of users and the diversity of contexts. So we thought we needed to explore this. So let me take you through one of the case studies and many of the case studies that we looked at as part of our project. And this is of an area just outside the city of Waterford in the southeast of Ireland. It's an economically deprived area. It's got, as you can see there in the top pictures, it's got a lot of blank, bland spaces which don't necessarily invite people to use them. They're not very well connected to users and how they might want to use those spaces. In the middle pictures there, you see that there's lots of straight roads, which are speeding becomes a problem for people. They don't feel it's a safe place to move around as cars move through it too fast. Also in that picture, you see the shell of a burnt out building. That building was formerly a pub in the area, and that, as was described to us by people when we interviewed them, was the beating heart or the throbbing heart of the area. And the community really suffered when that place burnt down. It was not repaired, not regenerated, not replaced. You can also see in the bottom corner there, there's a series of seating. This is the kind of interventions which currently exist in the area, which is poorly orientated seating. You're not really looking at anything and not really facilitating social interaction. There are, however, highly valued assets in the area, such as the community garden you see there in the bottom picture on the right, which provides space for people to engage with nature and with each other, although it is only facilitated for those who have an actual plot in that area, that growing space. So not everyone can access this. So with our study then, we took a number of different approaches. One of those approaches was to do a survey, which was quite a lengthy survey, but in this particular case study area, it was 103 households. And what we looked at, one of the things we asked the interviewees was, what provisions and improvements would entice you to exercise more in the locality? And by a factor of 3, people responded with outdoor gym equipment. So that was the immediate response we received. They also mentioned things such as improved walkways, pedestrian links to a local nature park, cycle lanes, as well as interventions such as field sports equipment, as pitches, all-weather pitches, tennis courts, basketball courts, etc. However, Having reviewed the literature in some depth and looked across the various scientific journals, we became somewhat suspicious of what we were receiving back at the doorstep. Namely, that we felt that people were giving us answers that they not necessarily have reflected on deeply, and were presenting potential interventions that they thought that the municipal council would actually implement in their area, as opposed to what they might necessarily want. So we felt it necessary to match up this quantitative study with a qualitative study. So how did we do this? Well, we triangulated 3 different processes, one of them being a card sorts, which is kind of a choice experiment. I'll take us through these in a moment. Scenario selection process, and an aerial photo sticky process. It's all quite engaged, quite messy, but it elicited interesting narratives and a different perspective on how people actually engage and perceive their spaces. So the first of these was a card sort exercise. This is a simple enough process where you have 20 cards laid out. On each of those cards is a picture, and each of those pictures represents a particular characteristic or facility that one might expect or indeed hope to find in a pleasant environment. This might include, for example, a woodland walkway, informal seating area, children's play area, cafe, coffee dock, or opportunities for engagement with nature. Respondents then were asked to select 15 cards that represent the characteristics or facilities that they think are most attractive. So you can see those 15 cards are selected there in columns A, B, and C, which leaves the 5 cards were not selected. That's quite important. The respondents then were asked to sort the cards into 3 groups representing different options for health and well-being, where each group of 5 cards represents one of the options. So basically create 3 columns, A, B, and C. You can see that in a photograph. And in that, they were asked to rank each card in the group in descending order of preference. The thing to take away from this particular process is what this allowed us to do was engage with the people in a reflective process in order to elicit a greater understanding as to what they saw or they perceived as enticing them to use this area, rather than just giving us stock answers such as gym equipment or more playing pitches. We actually got into an understanding of how they actually use the area, would like to use the area, their desires, their needs. Once that process was finished, we moved on to aerial photo stickies. And you can see this happening in the photo on the right there. Basically, we introduced an aerial photo of the case study area we were working in. The respondents we were working in were then asked to select 3 cards of the 15 cards that they selected in those columns. We just saw A, B, and C a moment ago in the last slide. That these cards were what they felt make or would make the area more attractive as a place to spend time, would entice them into the area. These 3 cards were then placed on the aerial photo where the respondent thinks that they could make the greatest impact. What we were doing essentially is taking the attributes that they felt responded best to them and then spatializing them. So we're getting a geography of how we could intervene in space for maximum benefit. The respondents were then presented with a series of icons, walking and cycling. You can see those in the top right there, quite simple. These icons were placed in the aerial photo where the respondents think that they could make the greatest impact. And they could arrange those icons on the aerial photograph to indicate suggested routes for walking and cycling. Again, we're talking through and recording the discussion that's taking place as the respondent explains to us why they have chosen the different attributes and why they placed them in different spaces on the aerial photograph and why they are spacing the walking and cycling routes as they are. Finally, then we provided a series of scenario selections. This is where we introduced 4 scenario drawings in A1 format. You can see that there in the picture on the right. Each drawing shows a different set of interventions that could be used to improve the experience of the case study area from the perspective of physical and psychological well-being. We asked respondents then to rank the drawings in 1 to 4 in terms of which drawing they think would best help improve the area in terms of health and well-being. Again, the reasons were probed. We elicited a narrative of understanding of people in place in their context and how they felt. This is where it gets interesting and where I want to bring you back to my earlier slides. If you recall, we asked the interviewees on the doorstep survey what provisions and improvements would entice respondents to exercise more in the local area. So out of 103 households, by a factor of 3, outdoor gym equipment was listed as number 1. Below that, walkways, and below that, playing pitches, all-weather pitches, field sports equipment, tennis courts, and so on. But when we actually use this qualitative approach, we realized that the things that were not selected were actually the interventions that the survey suggested people would want. So they said in the survey they would want outdoor gym equipment, they'd enhance playing pitches and tennis courts and so on. But when we they went through this qualitative narrative discussion approach, we realized that was not what they wanted. What they actually wanted was interventions such as a place to go to meet people, cafes co-located with play areas and opportunities to engage with nature, engage with people. And when we reflected upon this and asked people a little deeper why this was the case, it brings us back to this issue of the pub that had burnt down, which had been the beating heart, the hub of the community. And since that had burnt down and not been replaced, not been regenerated, the community members felt that the sense of community in the area had dissolved somewhat and dissipated. And what they sought was somewhere to meet people, a destination that would entice them to use green spaces that would be co-located with opportunities to engage with nature and places to mind their children. A space to walk to sit down, to bring your dog, to bring your kids, to meet. So what does this tell us then? Well, it tells us that planning for health and well-being means changing thinking in terms of planning or spatial development to thinking in terms of human development, moving the dial essentially, taking green space planning and design beyond an over-reliance on the old tropes of context-detached assumptions such as, let's put down outdoor exercise machinery and that will resolve issues around health and well-being. It tells us to move beyond designs by simple proximity standards, such as accessible natural green space standards, which are useful in and of themselves, but again, they do not necessarily respond to quality or are not necessarily sensitive to response or in response to users' needs and desires. To move beyond public presentation of 2 to 3 expert determined options for selection, the example of drawings that experts or consultancies bring to somewhere without actually engaging with people in advance of doing that. And to move beyond politically visible interventions that appeal to a limited cohort, such as playing pitches, which often only appeal to a cohort of 20 to 35-year-olds and exclude young children, families, the elderly, and so on. So what we need to do then is to think of planning for health and well-being in terms of human development that we need to understand and respond to context, such as the pub example I mentioned moments ago. It's not about provisioning of outdoor exercise machinery that people in that community felt would be vandalized and further present a blight in the landscape, but rather providing somewhere for them to go. Acknowledging and reflecting diversity of people and considering needs and desires of people across the life course. So young, pregnant mothers, young families, middle-aged, the elderly, all those different people of great diversity. So thank you for listening to me. If you're interested in this kind of approach, we have published widely on it, including a project report, and it's available at this website, which is ecohealth.ie. Thank you very much. Honored to be here.
Thank you, Mr. Lennon, for letting us know. Thank you, Mr. Lennon, for letting us know that we have to think a bit broader from a different context in terms when it comes to the greening and planning. I think it's very learnful. I was wondering if there are any questions. We have opened the chat, as you can see online. If there are any questions for Mr. Lennon, please feel free to ask. If not, I would like to thank you again very much and proceed to the next speaker. Her name is Mrs. Tina Sabi from Denmark. She's a chief architect, and she will basically explain us 5 reasons why cities should use greenification. So Tina, thank you for being here, and we are very much ready for your presentation.
Thank you. Is it on or?
Yes, you are on. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have been looking very much forward for this event. It would have been good to be together with you guys. Thank you, Nick, and the rest of you for also be so interested in how we can get nature into city development and be a big part of our cities. I will talk a little about why cities need nature, and I guess I could come with 1,000 reasons for that. So it's very difficult to short it down to make it into 15 minutes, and therefore I've been pointing out 5 reasons. just to tell you my background, I have been working with Copenhagen for 9 years as the city architect, and now I'm working in Gladsaxe, a suburb to Copenhagen, which is also as a city architect. I was educated in 1997. At that time in Copenhagen, and I guess the whole world, we were discussing cities in a very special way. We were trained in a modernistic thinking, where it was about how to get rationality. We were fascinated about if things could be fast. We were fascinated about buildings as icons. We didn't talk so much about life between the buildings, and we didn't talk so much about nature as something that we could not control. Nature was something that we could control. And this is one of the spaces, one of the buildings we designed at that time. It is designed by Henning Larsen Architects. Beautiful, iconic experience when you are in the building, but it is not giving so much back to the city, and the scale is big. Another iconic building from that time in Copenhagen, a beautiful space inside, a lot of good things to say about this building. But if we talk about how it is to be close to it, you can say this is why we need to talk about nature in the cities. We need to talk about the human scale, how to be there. This is from a landscape around a new building in Gladsaxe, designed by the building by Henning Larsen as well, and the landscape is designed by SLA architects, landscape architects. And here you can see this is a place where people is walking out when they are having a free time at work. This is nice. This is a human scale. This is a sensing experience. This is fresh air. This is how we want to be also in the cities. And people are engaged in nature. This tree, people were clicking to it because they did not want us to take it down when we were going to build the metro. People care about nature, and people are engaged in it in a lot of ways, because we can feel it, we can touch it, we can act, we can do a lot of things, we can breathe when we talk about just by thinking and talking about nature. So there is a lot of reason, and the last reason is, or the last why, before I try to give some answers to why, is that we will die if we don't do it. The climate is out of our control. The rain is there. The climate change is something that we can feel. In 2010, we were talking about it. In 2011, we could feel it the first time when the rain was there. In 2013, the storm was there. The sea level raised. In, I guess it was 15, 16, it was the warmest summer we had. So now we can feel all the climate change in everything we do. So we need nature in the city also because of that. In 1983, Copenhagen was bankrupt, and by that we had a program, an Urban Renewal Act, where we could go and get green yards in the city. So this one is my own green yard. When I had my kids, before it was a gray place. Today you can have a free green garden if you want to refurbish the whole yard. And a lot of gardens are going on right now in Copenhagen. And the water and the nature is something that we can feel and touch and smell. So why cities need nature? Because we now want to live in cities again. So therefore we need to have we need to have nature in the yards. In 1996, there was a neighborhood improvement movement in Copenhagen. It is a program half paid by the state, half paid by the city, where you can go on locally. It's a 5-year program. People, the decision are taken locally between people living there and people knowing something about city development in the administration. They have a small amount of money where they can go and change places, just temporary like this, but it creates again a human scale, and And it starts, all those processes we have been doing by neighborhood improvement is engaging people. This is free places where people can go on Facebook and say, I want to take care of this place. A lot of initiatives in those neighborhood improvement starts to grow out locally from people, together with people knowing something about it and the local neighborhood in general. A lot of engagement that almost every process we have in those neighborhoods improvement, they has in common that they talk about nature and that they create nature in the city. And now the private developer also knows that this is what combines people, this is what engages people. So now they start to facilitate that nature is a part of new urban development. So we need nature because nature creates communities. And I showed you this photo before about a tree that the whole city was almost talking about, this one tree that has been staying here, and people have so many memories among the stories about this tree. What is it by nature that makes us feel so much engaged in it? I guess there is a lot of reason, and probably a lot of you out there has a lot of answers to it that I don't know, that I even don't know. But I know that when you put your fingers in the soil, you start to release endorphins. And by releasing endorphins, you start to create happiness. And I guess there is something that is driving us through this, putting our fingers in the soul, and starts our feeling of happiness. So nature does something to us. This is one example where we invited people in Copenhagen city. As the administration, we invited people to take free the inner zone of the pedestrian area, and they could plant trees and put seatings. So it was an invitation for people to be engaged. And a lot of things where you start to plant trees, it's so easy to invite people in and to get them engaged in being a part of actually doing city development. So one of the things also that is important is that cities need nature because we can act as humans. We can do, we can make, we can create, and nature makes us alive, and it makes us feeling happiness. This is an example of a new kindergarten in Copenhagen, a beautiful design building. And the reason I put it here is that the contrast between that tree and that building creates the whole atmosphere and is the good architecture in this case. This building was nothing without this tree. So one of my issues here is to say that now my church bell is ringing. I don't know if you can hear that. If you can, I'm sorry, but I can't stop them. This example is also to show that the combination and the balance between the built, controlled construction and the nature, the wildness, the uncontrolled, the irrational is something that actually makes each other beauty. So a lot of times the building is nothing without the nature among it. So I guess that nature suits building very much, that nature makes buildings beautiful. And nature is also, with the image I showed you, with the people walking in the forest close to the building where they work, is also a way of getting a human scale. And I guess that was also something that Nick was talking about before. So nature creates a balance between the rational and the irrational, which is very important in our new modern world. So in last century, it was all about rationality. In this century, it is that we need to keep the balance, and we need to get the irrational back into our rational understanding, because we need both. And nature in cities is a part of creating that balance between the rational world, the controlled buildings, the controlled constructions, and then the irrational landscape that we cannot control even though we design it. The last point here is the climate is out of control. We all know that, and I guess nature is one of the solutions that we can use for trying to get the world in the right direction. This is the first out of 300 projects in Copenhagen that will change the whole city so that we can embrace the rain and the water that is coming down. And instead of what we did in the last century, where we put all the water, or it was in the 18th century, we started to put all the pipes underneath the ground. The pipes are now too small, the water is too big. So now we try to embrace the water as something that gives something back to the city. And to do that, we have analyzed the flow of water in Copenhagen, where it will go and where it will end. And on top of that knowledge, we have pointed out 300 projects that we are in the beginning of designing. Tåsingeplads here in the climate quarter at Østerbro in Copenhagen is the first space out of 300 where nature is the atmosphere. That nature is the one that invites people, that get the human scale, that helps us to sense the world, and also helps us to embrace the water and see if we can just change the world a little bit into another direction. This is the same place where the water is also a part of. It's the rainwater coming from the roof that goes down and become a part of the playground where the kids can pump up the water again. The whole plaza will embrace both the water in the everyday's rain, but also in the heavy rains that will come along with it. And it works. And it begins now to be also that people will go out and see how the design of the city is changing when the water starts to put down on the ground, so that it will mirror the buildings, and it will start to create also a new spatiality when the rain is there. And a lot of project is now being developed, and always it is to take care of it on ground, to use it as something that people can also play with, that creates and attracts birds like here, to open up for more biodiversity, to make the gray spaces into green spaces, to open up and inviting nature in again in the city, so that we hopefully can create a world where we maybe will survive just a little bit better. Hopefully, we need it. So that was 5 reasons why we need nature in the city. And just my last slide is just an awareness that I guess that we have to invite in every project we do, in every building we design, in every urban space we start, we need to invite in more landscape architects, talking about the views, the entrance, the edge zones, how we can create an inviting atmosphere before entering the building. We need to have a landscape architect around the table. So my hope is that all European cities around listening, that we start to discuss how we can be aware of educating more landscape architects, inviting them into the big discussion in society, inviting them in when we do and design every building we do, and put money into the budget not take away the money by the end of the day because the money and the budget is used for the building and we didn't have more money for the landscape. We have to change that balance. We need to say we have to begin with the big scale. We have to talk about the green cities before we start to build up our buildings. And I guess that was my last slide. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Tina from Denmark, for your warm words and an extra dimension in these words with the sound of the church bells. I think it gives extra dimension. Are there any questions on the chat for Ms. Sabi? No? Thank you again for your words, and I think we all know why green is needed in cities. We also now know that the function of a landscape architect is very much needed. I will explain a little bit more about that when it comes to the Green City Award, which is, well, basically the next phase in the program. When I look at the screen and I look at the team, I think I can now start announcing another phase in this evening. We have the Green Cities Award 2021. We have another speaker later on from the European Parliament who will announce the winner of 2021. A Green City Award is not just awarded. There is a quite complex structure behind it in terms of what project to award, what city to award, in terms of a jury. And the jury is a mixture of nurserymen and a mixture of architects and landscape architects. And they are represented from 13 countries, as it is a real European project with nominees from 13 countries. So that makes it even more interesting. And in this context, I would also especially thank the membership in the jury of two organizations, which are the ELCA, the European Landscape International Federation of Landscape Architects, and the European Landscape Contractors Association. They are part of the nomination and selection jury because their knowledge about projects and their knowledge about, well, the green infrastructure in cities is very important to give us an independent and very well-based solution and a well-based choice. We have a video which I would like to announce, which will show briefly the 13 nominees. When we have seen the video, I will do an announcement for the next speaker who will announce the winner. May I ask the team to start the video? Well, this shows a really nice reflection of projects from the different countries in Europe that have been able to send in the nominees. Different projects, different cities, from which the winner will be announced quite soon. I would like to thank very much in advance all the members of the juries that have put a lot of effort in the selection process. The juries, as I mentioned before, consist of nurserymen and landscape architects, and also the two landscape associations from Europe, to have a broad view on the selection process. I think that the award is a very constructive way of stimulating communities and stimulating cities to further work with green. And we have chosen as INA for this way of working because we believe that when we show projects, when we show actual work in terms of stimulating cities to work with green, that really brings on the footlight in the best way well, the initiatives, and it encourages also people to work with green. And it's part of the program, as I mentioned before, together with making a video, doing public relations, having articles in trade magazines, and organizing different symposiums and business-to-business meetings. So the program Green Cities consists of a wide variety of activities, which is running for a period of 3 years, with the support of the European Commission, which we embrace with a lot of gratitude, because it enables us also to work European-wide and also enables us to make coalitions. And I think, as I spoke with Mr. Rijmakers before about what does the campaign deliver us? Well, the campaign delivers, of course, more stimulation to work with green, but it also delivers us alliances with organizations within Europe. We are finding landscape organizations, we're finding nursery stock associations, and we're also finding communities to be able to interact and to be able to talk about the importance of green. And all this together is a very important basis under the campaign. I think that when we have shown now the video, I would like to say a few words again about, well, the conference as a whole. And I would like to pre-announce already Mr. Luena, who is a European Parliament member, and we are expecting him online any minute. I see him on the screen right now. Mr. Luena, you're a member of the European Parliament and you're the Vice Chair of the Committee of the Environment and Public Health and Food Safety. We thank you so much for being here. We had some connection problems, so it took a while. Thank you again for being here, and thank you also very much for announcing, after your speech, the winner of the 2021 Green City, European Green Cities Award. I give you the floor.
Dear colleagues, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this event. It is an honor to be announcing the winner of the Green Cities project. This campaign, Green Cities for a Sustainable Europe, is an incredible achievement and a big step towards the European climate goals established in the European Green Deal. This project motivates policymakers from cities to restore nature by creating green areas and infrastructure for their citizens. Green cities benefit not only biodiversity, but also people's physical and mental well-being. More than half of the world's population live in urban areas, a number that will continue increasing throughout the years. Cities have a key responsibility in increasing their sustainability, as they consume the majority of electricity. They demand the biggest food supply and produce the most of the waste. The benefits of green cities are countless. Better quality of air, the decrease of noise and water pollution, protection from flooding, droughts, and heat waves, and the availability of more activities related to nature. This improves the quality of life of citizens and social cohesion. Additionally, Green urban areas can also contribute to the protection of pollinators. This is why we support the planting of at least 3 billion trees in the EU, including in urban and peri-urban areas. This project contributes to both mitigation and adaptation efforts, as climate change consequences are already affecting negatively our living conditions, and these effects will continue to worsen. We need to increase nature and green solutions in cities in order to improve cities' population and service resilience to different external shocks. In sum, we need an EU platform for urban greening and specific ambitious binding targets on urban biodiversity, nature-based solutions, and green infrastructure. These objectives must include measures such as a minimum share of green roofs of new buildings, the support of urban farming, reducing fertilizer use in the EU urban green areas, and increasing the number of green spaces according to the number of inhabitants, while also addressing inequalities in access to green spaces. To conclude, I thank all of the participants for your incredible efforts in restoring nature and improving your citizens' experience in the urban life. It is indeed an example to follow, and I am sure that this project and today's award will continue to motivate more countries to start implementing sustainable and green solutions on their cities to fight against climate change and its consequences. I hope that we continue to cooperate, as we have seen through these 13 members, that it's possible to succeed in transforming cities into greener spaces. I congratulate every single one of you, and I proceed to announce the winner of the Green Cities project. And the winner is Les Jardins Extraordinaires, La France. Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much.
I am very happy that the green philosophy is embraced in more and more places in Europe. And bringing a philosophy to life and in practice is a big achievement, and the winner of today has shown us that you can make great things happen. So I hope that it inspires and motivates more cities and more countries to do so and make our environment greener and more beautiful. And for the winner, this is your award, and you are the winner next year, this whole year, the greenest city in Europe. Congratulations.
Yes, fantastic. What a fantastic winner. What a great win, Nantes. Merci and congratulations. Mr. Luena, you've introduced the winner and you've given us your speech as member of the European Parliament. We also would like to announce you as being an ambassador for us, because in the Brussels area, we believe it's very important to have the message spread. And via this ambassador's gift, we kindly invite you to be our ambassador as well. So thank you again for your kind words. This means also that we have come to an end of this conference, an end of a set of stories and presentations that have been very welcome. I would really like to thank all the speakers from abroad. I would like to thank all the audiences online and the audiences offline that are here with me in Beringen. Special thanks to the city of Beringen and the mayor of Beringen for hosting us here today. I think it's really nice to be able to be here. And well, let's make it a tradition to give the trophy further and further throughout Europe from year to year. I would like to thank the jury members from the INA Award for their work. I would like to very much congratulate Nantes again and be happy with your prize for the coming year. I also would like to announce that this is a yearly event, so there will be new nominations again, and there will be a new round of opportunities. When you go to the website www.thegreencities.eu/award, you find information about countries. You find information about organizations where you can address to when you would like to participate in the award. And next year in the Netherlands, when we have the Floriade, which is the largest horticultural exhibition, we will do the announcement of the winner next year. So we already would like to welcome you there. Thank you very much, everybody here. Thank you all the speakers, and well, stay healthy, and thank you again.